guys, have you heard of the elements of art? Well, the elements of art are 7 different elements that help us make our art. They're kind of like tools that we use to make really nice work. Well, my personal favorite is color, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Color is what we see when light hits an object and bounces off. Now, when we're dealing with color, we can organize it on what we call a color wheel. And there are 3 different groups that we can separate colors into. Those 3 groups are primary, secondary, and tertiary. Now, the primary colors are the first group, and you can't mix anything to make these colors. These guys are red, yellow, and blue. The next group are called your secondary colors. And to get a secondary color, you add a primary plus a primary, and that gives you your secondary. Now, if we mix red and yellow, we get orange. Yellow and blue give us green. And blue and red give us purple. Our last group of colors are called tertiary, and we can make these by adding a primary to a secondary. Tertiary colors are a little easier to remember because their names are the colors that make it. So let's go ahead and look at these. That's red and orange give you red-orange, yellow and orange give you yellow-orange, yellow and green give you yellow-green, blue and green give you blue-green, blue and violet give you blue-violet, and red and violet give you red-violet. You're probably wondering, where did violet come from? Well, violet is just another name for purple. Now that we know all the names of our colors, we can talk about color schemes. Now, a color scheme is a group of colors that you use together. And your color scheme can either be analogous or complementary. Analogous colors are colors that live right next to each other on the color wheel, kind of like next-door neighbors. Now, complementary colors are the colors that live directly across from each other on the color wheel, like your neighbor across the street. Now, there are 3 main color combinations that we use to talk about complementary colors, and that's blue and orange, red and green, yellow and purple. These are colors that work very well together, just like peanut butter and jelly. And when you mix these colors together, you can make brown, which is called a neutral. You may be wondering, where does white and black fit in? Well, white and black don't go on the color wheel because they're not colors. White and black are neutrals, and neutrals can be used to change the value of a color. Value is just a fancy way of saying how light or dark a color is. Now, if we want to make something lighter, we would add white. And once you add white, you get what's called a tint. If you want to make something darker, you add black. And once you add the black, you get what's called a shade. And you can use tints and shades to really change how your colors look. So now that we've talked all about colors, what they are, and color schemes and tints and shade, I think it's time for us to review. First, we talked about the 3 different groups that color can be put in. There's the primary, secondary, and tertiary. We know that our primaries can't be made from anything else because they are our originals. We have red, yellow, and blue. If we add a primary plus a primary, we get a secondary. And our secondary colors are orange, green, and purple. And if we add a primary to a secondary, then we get our tertiaries, which is red-orange, yellow-orange, yellow-green, blue-green, blue-violet, and red-violet. We also talked about color schemes and how we can have analogous color schemes or complementary. Now we said an analogous color scheme is a lot like having two next door neighbors because these are colors that live directly beside each other on the color wheel. And complementary colors are like neighbors that live across the street from each other because they are directly across from each other on the color wheel. And last, we talked about tints and shades and how white can be added to lighten something and it'll create a tint, and how black can be added to darken it up and it's called a shade. Now that you know all about color, go out, have fun, and make some art.